Welcome back, guys. All right, we're at our third video installment of our recap from night or Saturday's class, first class. In this one, we're going to talk about HTML elements. This one, there's a bunch of just stuff that I need to go over more so than showing you. So it's not a lot, but it's a few things. So HTML documents are marked up by different HTML elements. So we talked about an element, what an element is in a previous example, but HTML elements are written with a start tag and an end tag and all content in between. So this H1 right here, this is all an element. Element includes the start tag, the end tag, and all content in between. So this is an H1 element. This right here in the paragraph is a paragraph element because it includes the open paragraph tag, the closed paragraph tag, and all information in between. This one is a link or anchor tag element. Sorry, oops. This one is an anchor tag element because it includes the start tag for the A. The A tag also has attributes, which are inside of here, which remember is just additional information about the element. So it has the start tag, and it has the end tag, and it has all the content in between. Again, with the image, same here. Image is what's called an empty tag because it doesn't have to have information in between it in order to run, and it doesn't have to have a closed tag. See, this is just an empty element. So it's one image tag, and then it has to close. And we're going to talk about that a little bit as well in more detail, but since we were here, I wanted to bring that up. All right, so that's what the elements are. Element is the open tag, the closed tag, and all information in between. We already talked about the paragraph tag, so we don't really need to talk about that anymore. We talked about the H1 tag, so we don't really need to talk about that. But some HTML elements do not have an end tag, which is what I was just talking about with the image tag. Okay. Now we'll talk about nested HTML elements, which we talked about a little bit. But HTML elements can be nested inside of elements. And then elements can contain elements. As you see here, where we have our heading, this is an element, the head tag and the closing head tag, and then everything in between. But this whole thing is the head element. But nested inside of it, it has this title element that's inside of it. Okay, so we have the head tag or the head element contains the title element nested inside of it. Hopefully that makes sense. I can explain that more in detail face to face. I think we talked a lot about it though during Saturday's class, but if you're still unclear about it, we'll clear it up. No problems. Okay, so the HTML element defines the whole document, which we talked about. This right here is the HTML element, and it's defining the entire document that we're working in. It has that start HTML tag, and it has the close HTML tag, which is down here, or the end HTML tag. The element content is another HTML element, right? So the content of our page right here is the body area, okay? And that's another HTML element that's sitting inside of the HTML tag. So web. Nesting is big, and it's very important to understand that. All right, so then we talked about the body element, which defines the whole document body. Okay, so everything inside of here is what's seen inside of the browser. It has that start body tag and the end body tag. The element content is two other HTML elements, which are the H1 tag and the P tag. Okay, it contains those inside of it, so they're nested. Okay, so that's the whole thing with nesting. And again, the P tag represents a paragraph. P tag has an open and end, and then the content in between it, okay, is a part of that element. And remember, as I was typing, I typed the open tag and the close tag because it's too easy to forget about that end tag. So you want to make sure that you're typing that open tag and then type that close tag just to get it out of the way and not even have to worry about, oh, did I close that? I can't remember. You know, you already have it done, so you have no issues there. All right. The example that I typed works in all browsers because the closing tag is considered optional on some browsers for some reason. But always close your tags though, because you'll run into some browsers where if you forget that end tag, it's not going to run it. Okay, so don't do sloppy code. Let's always do clean code. That's what's going to set us apart from the rest. All right, so some more about empty HTML elements. HTML elements with no content are called empty elements, as we talked about. In class, we talked about the break element, which is an empty element without a closing tag. The break tag defines a line break. Empty elements can be closed in the opening tag with a slash, which I'll show you in a moment. But with HTML5, it does not require them to be closed. That was what I was talking about when I was doing that image tag. And I was like, how doesn't it close? And why isn't it closing? Because HTML5 doesn't make it a requirement. But if you want to make sure that you get a stricter validation and that your document or that your HTML is readable by XML parsers, you should make sure that you close all HTML elements. So I am still a fan of that slash after it. HTML tags are not case sensitive, which means that a capital P in that tag could be the same as a closed P. Now, it's not in some web browsers will require it to be lowercase, so just keep that in mind. The HTML standard does not require lowercase tags, but the W3C recommends lowercase, especially in HTML4, and demands lowercase for stricter documents like XHTML. So this is why I say just stick with lowercase. So all that in a nutshell was saying is if I write this with a capital P or a capital P, then it should be read by most browsers. But there are those cases where it's not. So I always like to just stick with my lowercase p and my lowercase p. Now, when we talk about empty elements, if we look at our, where is it? If we look at our website that we've been building so far, it's got the dog here and then google.com. I want to put a break in between these two. So we're going to do our first empty element as far as here. We did plenty on Saturday, but as far as here. So I want to go after my link here. I want to put a break in here. So I'm going to hit return. And then here's how the break tag is written in HTML5. It's written just like this. But this is what we were talking about, or what I was just talking to you about. Before HTML5, you had to have that slash to close it. Now with HTML5, you don't have to have the slash. I'm a fan of the slash only because certain browsers won't be able to read it, and then we'll have a problem, and my stuff will look crazy. So I'm a fan of the slash. However, this is up to you. If you strictly want to write HTML5 and you're not worried about other browsers, whether they see it or not, I won't count it off if you don't have that slash. So that's up to you. That's actual preference. So again, it can be written like this, or it can be written like this. And the reason it's a break tag is because it doesn't have to have information in between. But let's test this theory. Let's save that. And let's see what happens with our dog. Okay, so see how it breaks the line now? It's no longer jumbled up on one line, and it broke the line, and now the doggy is sitting there underneath. It's too cool because he's just cute. All right. Now, that being said, let's save this document because we are ready to go into the next chapter. The next chapter is going to talk more detail about HTML attributes. So, see you in a moment.